Hi people, welcome to Blu UK Jazz Dance. I'm one of the first dancers who wants to give people an insight into planning and organising my new leadership, my legacy of leadership project. And I wanted to share with people UK Jazz Dance, my new slogan, flying solo with a new jazzitude. A 100% focus, a 3D focus on sharing the benefits of dancing, dance leadership, dance management, dance choreography, dance preserving, dance advocacy, dance nurturing, dance studying, dance continuous personal development. I'm a dance expert who specialises in Blu UK Jazz Dance styles, improvisational dancing, creative dance. Why? Because they give people the most self-expressive opportunities to explore dance without no restrictions, if people got that. Part of my work is simply what I've done. You see, this is a map, what I'm doing, my planning at home. Basically, this is pre-university, in university and post-university is what I wanted to give people an understanding. The reason is because dance leaders are treated like 8th class citizens, like we don't have a brain. People don't know what dance does because of many reasons, because generally most people don't get an understanding what dance leadership does. People are unaware that dance leadership involves professional development practice, so it involves personal development, professional development, research and development. Dancers are considered to be self-employed or freelance. That's what people need to understand in companies. And part of my work is to illuminate that what happens is there's many ways that dance engage in leadership. One is from dance leadership perspective, that you're involved in the dance industry, and what is called leading dance beyond the dance industry. Dancers for centuries have taught people to use dance as a vehicle for their personal development. Do you know what I'm saying? To beat shyness, to beat trauma, to beat being overwhelmed in presentations, to being overwhelmed in speaking in front of others. Do you know what I'm saying? Speaking on the spot, giving feedback as managers. Dancing is being used to enable people to develop their drama skills, to develop their performance arts, musical theatre skills. Dance is being used as a tool to develop people's characteristics, the personalities and characteristics in a positive way. And this has not been knowledge, so that's dance education. Dance is being used in community arts to give marginalised groups a voice, give marginalised group to opportunities to bond, to build camaraderie, basically to get a focus for their life in underprivileged circumstances. And I'm an individual who comes from an underprivileged background like Misty Copeland and Carlos Acosta. And my work was to share with people, my engagement in dance as a hobby to a profession. One of the key things from very young, I didn't want to become a professional dancer as my job. I wanted to use dance as a hobby, and I wanted to do musical theatre. I wanted to be on the stage from the beginning. And what happened was, organically, as an individual, I pursued dance as a hobby, and I used it to improve my writing on the spot, speaking on the spot, my understanding people on the spot, to performing, because I was a shy child. And as a person, I as an individual realized that dance gave me confidence, it gave me courage, so I did that more and more. Then what happened is it opened me up to wider ways of learning, different ways of learning, creative ways of learning, which worked for me as a special education needs child. As a special education needs child, people will not be aware that there's loads of research that shows you what the special education needs child does as a slow learning child. They gravitate towards creative activities. Yeah, we gravitate to design ways of learning and thinking. We gravitate to performing arts. We gravitate to things like musical theatre. We gravitate to sports. We gravitate to spatial awareness activities, which I did. Now, most importantly, I researched the benefits. So one of the key things, this came through by accident. Basically, as a young child, I created this character, and the character I created was called Adventures of a Swing Kid, between the ages, in my early learning years, to the age of 8 years old. I created this character because I saw jazz on television, and on television you see films. You see people tap dancing, people singing, acting, being comedians. I saw musicals and started to mimic what I saw in musicals. especially a man called John Bubbles. I saw a fragment of a dancer called John Bubbles who was singing, he was dancing, he was acting. I said I wanted to be like him. And I saw on television musicals. We saw Top of the Pops. Dance was at the centre of cultural life in Britain when I was born, in my early learning years from 64 to 70. And again, and throughout my life, from 70 to 2020, dance has been at the centre of my cultural life. Do you understand? Now it's at the central cultural life of Britain, again, and UK and abroad. And what it's led to is people researching dance. Now, one of the key things in my leadership was my dance forms, UK jazz dance or African dance, West Indian dances, our ska, our soul, our funk, our disco, our calypso, yeah, our jungle drum and bass, our garage, our reggae, our dub was not being documented. It was identified as insignificant, like vernacular jazz. All the dances I've identified have all enabled me to create my own or pioneer my own UK jazz dance style. And I wanted to raise the status, the prominence of UK jazz dance, particularly Blu UK Jazz, my own style, alongside mainstream dance. And that took a journey. And that journey happened organically through racism. Racism identifying that West Indians were insignificant and inferior. Anything that they created had no significance, had no creative process, creative practice, creative principles behind it. And I created a series of projects over the years, voluntarily through my lifelong learning. I created a number of projects to raise the prominence of Blu UK Jazz dance, black people's presence in Britain, their dances and their culture alongside other dances. And what happened, one of the major projects, have been a number of projects, Birth of the Cool was 1972, The Adventures of Queen Kid. Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover was where I started to do empowering students. I started to tell people about Manchester, don't judge Manchester, don't judge my culture, West Indian culture, my dad's culture, Jamaican, which is stereotyped, my mum culture, Grady, and my own culture growing up. I identified individuals, the importance of dance in my community from a very young age, and I was able to show it, and I was able to demonstrate and speak on it. And it changed my life because I was in Grenada when I first started that in 1972. When I came back to school, they asked me what did I do on holiday, and I showed them again. I identified to people, don't judge a book by its cover. I set a project called Birth of the Call. This is what my parents did. I went on to take Birth of the Call, don't judge a book by its cover, into a major project called Student Empowering Students, Student Empowering Communities, Student Empowering Artists, Students Empowering Education, onto People Empowering People, etc. I used it in so many different ways as an individual, because what was this whole thing, I realized that what I needed to be doing was a number of key things: empowering people, educating people, re-educating people, and inspiring people to identify the roots of a people's culture and see the links between our culture. And this was all under multicultural education, because the problem, what happened, the challenge in our society was people had been given stereotypical ideas about people's cultures, so they never researched it. So there was a barrier to them learning. And the one thing about cultural diversity today, what a person should do when they want to engage in cultural diversity is look at the biases that they have. Now, Deering wrote an amazing report in 1981 of the Riots of 81. A report was done about the racism in Britain, and a man called Deering for the government wrote an excellent report, and that report identified there was direct racism and indirect racism which marginalized groups faced in Britain. And that opened up a lot of people to understand that there was things in society that had made people become racist indirectly, which were the media, because we had black and white minstrel show, the comedians demeanoring people, we had gollywogs. So the black and white minstrel show had been in Britain from 1830 to 1987. Television 1958 to 1978, and it was global. It was the #1 money-making thing, industry in Britain and in the US and globally that made people money, from records, music sheets, a whole host of things, from TV, rights, theatre rights, etc., copyright. An incredible amount of money was made from the black and white minstrel show. Before that was Jim Crow. From that there was vaudeville, white vaudeville 1830, and then there was black vaudeville 1890, where blacks, to survive, they mimicked themselves in America, do you understand, doing black and white minstrel show. So it was global. So we had these whole heap of stereotypes, gollywog books written by Enid Blyton, things like a number of key books. Literature was a huge way to demeanor African diaspora people. Phonology, 90s in the 1700s, slavery in the 1500s. Then we had scientific racism, colonialization, which again destroyed any positive images of blacks. So part of my work was basically throughout my projects, they've had an undercurrent theme to promote the positive images and energy of my African cultural heritage arts. African diaspora arts has been an undercurrent theme, and its wider uses, because people never knew, as I said, it was used to develop people's social, physical, intellectual, cultural, emotional, spiritual skills development. It was used to develop people's early learning, child learning, adolescence learning. It was used to develop our political awareness, economic awareness, technological awareness, environmental awareness, legal awareness. Yeah, if you look at dance in the world, it says every culture's dance says who they are, what they are, and where they come from, and what they can be. Because remember, people went on to become great dancers. I've identified Misty Copeland as an example, the background she came on from, and Carlos Acosta, where he came from, John Bubbles, tap dancers, Bojangles, Gregory Hines, Savion Glover. If you look into dance, you'll find that individuals came from impoverished background to become some of the to perform in the most elite environments in the world for royalty, on established stages of ballet to contemporary to jazz. And I'm one of them individuals that had that opportunity to perform on the Royal Ballet stage, an opportunity to perform at Bridgewater, opportunities to involve at Almeida Theatre in London, Arnolfini in Bristol, Bridgewater, like I said, in Manchester, Royal Exchange in Manchester, to the Contact Theatre, do you understand, to Guildhall festivals, using a wide range of dances, because one of the key things was I was a drummer, a dancer, a storyteller, an actor, who involved myself in a wide range of art forms, and I'm renowned as an independent, interdisciplinary dancer, dance expert and practitioner, self-trained in the grassroots dance development and in Western arts and African dance. I went to receive training from some of the leading seminal teachers, seminal exponents in the world. In African American dance, Lindy Hop, I studied under Frank Manning and Norma Miller, the greatest dancers that ever were in America, and they were here. So one of the key things I share as a leader is, in the UK, they brought the best dancers in the world. The best dancers in the world have always constantly come to perform, particularly in two key cities I want to share with individuals. Manchester was the first modern city. It had the second most theatres outside London. London had the first, but Manchester was the first modern city that was promoting dance at the heart of cultural life. No city has done so. And what happened, the north of England has influenced dance at the heart of cultural life in the UK and abroad. If you know about the history of jazz, jazz fuses what? It fuses the jig from the north, reel from the north, hornpipe from the north, clog from the north, Morris dancing from the north, maypole dancing, and through migration of the northern people around the world, what happened, these dances became important to the life of communities there. So the Irish in Australia, the Irish in America, the Irish in the Caribbean, the Irish in the United States, the Scottish in United States, in Australia, etc. Talk about penal colonies. I'm talking how people migrated from Britain, particularly in the 1800s, the Irish on an unprecedented scale, alongside Africans, travelled, taken forcibly around the world. It's important for people to understand. So part of my work is giving people a deeper understanding as an expert in dance about how dance can be used, how dance is being used by individuals, but most importantly, I'm giving people a 3D perspective into dance in my life, and talking about there's been a new need for dancers to map their dance journey for other dance people to know about it. So basically, I've mapped my journey from my early learning years, from 1964, yeah, to 1970 to presently, at this moment, up to 2020, giving people insight. I set up a number of projects, as I said, a number of projects to raise the prominence of the benefits of dance and the benefits of dance leadership generically, as well as to me personally, because each dancer has their own journey. Dance I used in a wide range of ways, in a wide range of settings, with a wide range of people. And my lifelong journey in dance has been an incredible story. My lifelong leadership in dance has been an incredible story, because it all happened organically, and it happened from a perspective of me wanting to be a dancer from a very young age and pursuing it with lack of opportunities existing, lack of finance to do some of the things I wanted, and it led to me self-training myself to use a cane, self-training myself to do soft shoe shuffle, self-training myself to do tap as well as going for formal tap, self-training myself to do ballet, contemporary, getting books. And one of the key things within the grassroots communities, you'll identify that grassroots communities, how vernacular jazz was created, basically people in rural communities danced organically, and the dance just evolved. When people left them communities and moved into new communities, that was the same with me. I was born in the slums of Moss Side. I lived there 1964 to 1971. I had an exceptional and outstanding cultural, creative, cross-cultural experimentation life there. And what happened was, living in the slums was very much stereotyped. When I went to my primary school in 1970, people were shocked that I had formal piano lessons. People were shocked I had manners. People are shocked that I had neat attire. People are shocked I had neat writing. Now, what happened was, when I went to school, I was very shy. Going to school, my parents didn't know how to train me for a suburban school. The suburban school was a very unhealthy environment. Young people had been trained to be racist, directly and indirectly what happened in my school. So I had a lot of violent bullying, and I had a lot of racial violent bullying in my school. So there's two ways it happened. I had a lot of teasing, just general teasing, and I had a lot of racial teasing, was huge in Britain. And I went to school 70 to 76, and so much so people tried to kill me at 72. Basically, my parents brought in rehabilitation intervention, sent me to the Caribbean to go to school, to get cultural grounding, to toughen me up, to build courage, to build confidence, to build a better sense of self, and that worked. And I came back to Britain much tougher, more resilient in my leadership, more emotional intelligence in my leadership, more creative in my thinking about how I dealt with my certain scenarios, because I lived with fear as an individual. I felt my life was not controlled in my primary school, and I had to take control of that. And when I came back, I started to do reflective diaries, and I started to write down the things I was going through, and that proved to be very important, because people need to know about writing and healing. So dance came a tool of healing for me, writing came a tool of healing, performing came a tool of healing, because the individual that I recognized, discovered, dance gave me escapism, dance gave me euphoria, and dance gave me ecstasy, raised my consciousness, and I recognized it as a young child. Later on, as a teenager, I started to research it. Then I went on to research it and talk about it and tell others about the importance of dance. And today, I'm one of the dancers, one of the dance leaders who is self-trained and trained, who has always identified from very young that dance has had benefits, and today them benefits are actually being researched. TEDx, TEDMed, there's overwhelming evidence, because what's happening is people are now researching dance. I've now turned to specialise in researching UK jazz dance, researching black dance, African diaspora dance and its benefits to the world, its legacy of contribution. Most importantly, to specialise in Blu UK Jazz dance and talking about my development in dance and the benefits to me, and reinforcing people's understanding of dance benefits to me through my photographs, through my video. So the photographs and video and the writing, reflective writing I'm going to have is going to come from a perspective of pre-university, in university and post-university. Blu UK Jazz, that's out. Don't be upside down, please.